Absolute value equations. Key vocabulary. Absolute value is the absolute value of a number x written as absolute value x is the distance the number is from 0 on a number line. The distance. So absolute value, when you take the absolute value of something, the outcome is always 0. I'm sorry, positive. Because distance is always positive. So when you find the absolute value of something, your outcome should be positive because distance is always positive. Extraneous solution. A solution that must be rejected because it does not satisfy the original equation. So you'll see what that means in just a little bit. But again, an extraneous solution is a solution that does not satisfy the original. When you're interpreting and absolute value equations, again, if I want to find the absolute value of x, that's the same thing as x, the absolute value of x minus 0, which is k. Again, it's the distance that that term is from 0 on the number line. So to find the solutions, you take x minus 0 equals negative k or x minus 0 equals k. But very rarely are we going to have just x in there. Most of the problems we're about to deal with have more than that. So let's focus our attention here where we have x minus the absolute value of x minus b is equal to k. To find the, you're going to write your equivalent equations. Again, you have to write these equations. These are your equivalent equations. And then solve each one. Again, this will make a whole lot more sense in the next example. So for example 1, it wants us to solve x minus 5 equals 7. Check and graph the solutions. So you always take the term, the x minus b, out of the absolute value sign and make two equations. So the first equation, you're going to take x minus 5 equals negative 7. And then the second equation, you're going to take x minus 5 equals positive 7. So you're always going to do a negative version and a positive version of whatever follows the equal sign. And then carry on your algebra steps, solving both equations separately. So on the first equation, I would add 5 to each side like I normally do. So I'm left with x is equal to negative 2. On the second equation, when I add 5 to both sides, I'm left with x is equal to 12. So it says check the solutions. Now when we're going to check them, we're plugging them back into the original equation to see if any are extraneous. So that's the absolute value of negative 2 minus 5 and see if it equals 7. So negative 2 minus 5 is negative 7. So the absolute value of negative 7 equals 7. And then when you take the absolute value of negative 7, you're going to get positive 7. So both sides equal. So this negative 2 checks out. Check it with 12. Same manner. So the absolute value of 12 minus 5 and see if it's equivalent to 7. So 12 minus 5 is 7. And the absolute value of 7 is 7. Sorry, we don't need this anymore. So it checks out. So again, when I want to find the absolute value of negative 7, you're asking yourself, how far is 7 from 0? And the answer is a distance, so that's why negative 7 is 7 spaces from 0 on the number line. Same thing, How far is positive 7 from 0 on the number line? It is 7 spaces away. So the absolute value of positive 7 is 7. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7. One analogy I like to use is think about a bar, literally. So the absolute value bars represent a bar. It doesn't matter how you walk into the bar, but I can guarantee without a doubt you will be positively in a good mood when you leave the bar. So that's my analogy. It doesn't matter what kind of day you had, whether it was a positive day or a good day, or a negative day, sorry. But when you leave the bar, I can guarantee you're positively gonna feel good. So let's graph it on a number line. We would have negative 7, I'm sorry, negative 2 and 12. And we're trying to see their distance from 5, and both of them are 7 spaces away from 5. That's what it means by graph the solution. Number 2, solve absolute value of 2x plus 12 equals 4x. Check and graph the solutions. So again, you have to write two equations. So the first one would be 2x plus 12. My pen is delaying for a second. Plus 12 equals negative 4x. And the second one is 2x plus 12, oh my goodness, equals positive 4x. And now solve. So I always encourage you to move the x term to the side of the larger number. So we have a positive 2 and a negative 4. Positive 2 is larger, so let's move 4x by adding to both sides. So you're left with 6x plus 12 equals 0. Then you're going to subtract 12 from both sides. So you get 6x equals negative 12. Then divide both sides by 6. So x is equivalent to negative 2. All right, over here, since 4x is larger, we're going to subtract 2x. And that leaves you with 12 is equal to 2x. Then we'll divide both sides by 2. And you're left with 6 is equal to x. Now let's check both solutions to see which ones satisfy the original equation. So it's the absolute value of 2 times negative 2 plus 12 is equal to 4 times negative 2. Oh my goodness, that's supposed to be a parenthesis. All right, so it's the absolute value of 2 times negative 2 is a negative 4 plus 12. And that's supposed to equal a negative 8. So the absolute value of negative 4 plus 12 is going to be the absolute value of 8. And again, the absolute value of 8 is positive 8. So positive 8 does not equal negative 8. So negative 2 doesn't check out. Let's try positive 6. So that's 2 times 6 plus 12 equals 4 times 6. 2 times 6 is 12. 4 times 6 is 24. And then 12 plus 12 is 24. So it's the absolute value of 24 bring down the 24 on the right. And the absolute value of 24 is 24. So 6 checks out. So in this case, the only true solution is 6. This is the actual solution. Negative 2 is extraneous. So we're not going to even concern ourselves with extraneous. We only want the actual solution. Example 3. Most tennis rackets have 110 square inch head plus or minus 25 square inches. Write and solve the absolute value equation to determine the least and greatest possible sizes for the head of an adult tennis racket. When writing an absolute value equation, the middle or central value is always placed inside the absolute value symbol. And then the range is always placed on the other side of the equality symbol. So let's make our decision as to what is the central value and what is the range. So it says most tennis rackets have 110 square inch head. That's your central value. When it says most, that's the middle or the average essentially. So central value is your average. And then it says plus or minus 25. So that's your range. So now we can write our equation. It's the absolute value of x minus 110, and it's equal to 25. Now we're going to solve it the same way. So you take x minus 110 equal to negative 25, and then x minus 110 equals positive 25. Add 110 to both sides on the first, well, and the second. On the first, when you add, you're left with x equals, I believe, 95. Sorry, 85. Let me, 0, 1. Yes, 85. And then on the right hand side, the second one, x is equal to 135. So the least and greatest sizes, it's at least 85, but at most 135. I'm trying to put a box. Y'all saw me draw a box. And this concludes your notes.